I was worried about Scream 7 from the moment it was announced. Once Melissa Barrera was fired, and Jenna Ortega and the directors of those two movies left, it wasn't looking good for this movie. Scream 5 and 6 weren't perfect, but they showed you can make a Scream movie without needing Sydney. And most fans were on board and got attached to the core four. But without your two main stars, it was either making a Scream movie with Sydney in the lead, or canceling Scream 7. And of course, they chose making money. I mean, making this movie. Many people are hating this movie for understandable reasons, but I don't think people should be so rude in their reviews. Sure, there's many things wrong in this movie that makes it weaker from the other three, but for what they had to work with, they did a decent job. But they definitely could have done a better job if they just listened to the fans. I went into this movie with a positive mind, and honestly, the movie started off strong. It actually made me surprised, but then I was left despised. I didn't plan to make this video, but here we are. I wasn't expecting this movie to be the best, but I did have high hopes. I'm not even that big of a Scream fan, but I know a bad ending when I see it. So I'm gonna tell you what I did like, what I disliked, and what could have been better for Scream 7.
The phone is ringing.
I was afraid of how they were going to portray Sydney's daughter, but surprisingly, the movie treated her like she was her daughter instead of her Gen Z replacement. Will that slowly happen over time? Yes, but they handled her character in this movie in a good way. Having this Scream movie be a mother and daughter horror film was a refreshing change to the movie's formula, and they nailed the suspense every time. Also, having Ghostface get hit by a car and having Gale step out of it was comedy gold. And the kills in this movie were a step up from the previous two. The bar kill and the theater play were the most memorable to me for how creative and gory they were. The blood and beer flowing out of his mouth was a comedic touch that I truly loved. And the way Ghostface treated Hannah like a human piñata went from
0 to 100, nigga, real quick.
When her insides hit the stage, I was shocked and amazed for how far this movie went for one kill. These two kills specifically reminded me of Terrifier. So much so that I was expecting Ghostface to start clapping proudly and crazy like Art the Clown. That's probably a little too much on the scary movie side, but I would have loved it. Like I said, this movie started off strong, but now this is where the tone starts to shift.
The phone is ringing.
Ghostface always uses technology to his advantage, and he upgrades in every movie, whether it's using a voice changer, recording the kills, or hacking into the home security. So when I heard that Ghostface was upgrading to AI, I got excited about what they can do with that concept. As much as I hate AI, I was on board for what this franchise had to say about it. Having Ghostface with the power to hide behind a digital mask is a great story path to go down, but they used it as an excuse instead of a weapon. Instead of it being a part of the killer's motive, they used it to bring back familiar faces. Also, if the previous killers from those movies all died when they were younger, how did the killer get enough clear pictures of them all at different angles and somehow turn them older than they were before? I watch a lot of Corridor Crew, so I know a thing or two. AI is a complex and scary tool that anybody can use, and they don't make it that big of a deal in this movie. If they use the idea of AI as a reason to bring back these familiar faces, why couldn't they use real deepfakes to revive those familiar faces from the past? If they can de-age Billy from the other movies, they could have brought back the old Stu instead of teasing us with the return of Stu. Ghostface using AI isn't a bad idea, but there should have been a bigger reason why. Like how you can use it to take over the movie industry, or ruin people's lives. They could have had the killers go after people who are fans of Sydney's traumatic life, using AI to change their face to Sydney so it looks like she's murdering her psycho fans while dressed as Ghostface, and then taking that convincing AI footage to frame her for a life in prison. Or what if you had a killer who makes AI endings of stab movies because they hated how the last one ended, so they became Ghostface to bring their AI story to life? People making AI alternate endings are everywhere nowadays. And Scream 7 could have made fun of those people instead of the people that wanted Stu. Technology has evolved since 1996, and they used it in such a lazy way. AI is a scary real-life issue that Scream 7 could have executed better.
The phone is ringing.
I know a lot of people were decisive on the idea of Stu being alive, but when Matthew Lillard was announced to be in this movie, everyone's expectations went through the roof. And when the trailers came out and we heard his voice, our expectations were even higher. The people that theorized for years on the idea of Stu somehow being alive were finally getting recognized by the franchise. But instead of giving us Stu, they disappointed us with these two. This movie had 3 killers, and only one of them had a motive and a connection to Sidney. This guy was an ex-Google employee that was behind all of the AI, who had no motive for hating Sidney. And Carl got hit by a car, so we never heard his side. The Ghostface reveals are what these movies lead up to. Even when it's not good, there's still a reason and a connection to it all. Instead of the killer being connected to Sidney's life, they made Sidney be the impact of the killer's motive. Her reason for being crazy wasn't terrible, but it wasn't monologue worthy. The killer's reveal is supposed to be the full circle moment, but Scream 7 turned it into an oval for how big of a stretch it was. The bad signal from Sidney's phone was a way better connection than that lady.
Excuse me?
You heard me. This franchise lost the skill of writing good plot twist characters, so much so that they had to give the killers less screen time so they can make it look like a surprise. This movie had potential, but then it was disrespectful, teasing us with our nostalgia without a clever idea. They were trying to be unpredictable, but made an ending that was unbearable. Unpredictability only works when you have a good story to tell. And when you mess up the motive, you mess up the movie. Wednesday would have been a better Ghostface reveal. It wouldn't have made any sense, but anything's better than those two. If Stu wasn't going to be in this movie, then why didn't they come up with a plot twist that was way better than bringing him back? They could have made him the slasher version of Johnny Lawrence, a man who's been holding a grudge for 30 years, waiting to get his revenge. The fans threw them a bone, and they used him as dangling keys. If they're saving Stu for Scream 8, 9, or 10, it's too late. They wasted their opportunity. And if he is alive, I'm waiting for streaming to see it happen.
The phone is ringing.
In Scream 5, the final showdown took place in Stu's house. In Scream 6, they had a whole room full of Easter eggs and references from the previous movies. And in Scream 7, they used that nostalgia against us to trick us into watching something that wasn't clever or creative. I'm tired of nostalgia being the only thing these modern Scream movies have to offer. All they ever do is reference, recycle, and recreate the original. The 3 big R's we're all tired of. The newer Scream movies have their ups and downs, but there's more downs because they're too afraid to take any risk. Referencing the past isn't a bad thing, but it gets to a point when it becomes repetitive and annoying to sit through. Did I enjoy Scream 7? Yes, but the ending was so disappointing because there were so many routes they could have taken. Scream movies used to be comedic slasher films on the horror genre, and they still are, but now it's become the Fast and Furious of horror movies. Stu was the last piece of Sidney's past that the writers had left. Everyone from Sidney's past is dead, so much so that they had to make one up. If there aren't any more connections to Sidney anymore, then what's the point of having her back in the spotlight? Nostalgia can only get you so far, and without any good ideas or adding anything new to the table, I think it's about time to put this franchise out of its misery. Angrily explaining about movies and TV shows will not be a regular thing on this channel. The internet is toxic enough as it already is, and I want to make this channel a place where I spread positivity virtually with whatever my brain has to offer creatively. If you do like this style of content, check out my other videos and stay tuned for more. Bye!